Would you throw garbage into your own backyard? Or what about plastic into the ocean? Of course not. Why would you? Yet this is exactly what's happening every day around the world. A world we live in. As someone who lives on this planet, I have a vested interest in making sure we care for it. Care for our home. We waste entirely too much. So it is our responsibility to reduce the amount of garbage created and to increase the amount of that garbage that is recycled. The fact is, we create an amazing amount of garbage every year. Much of that could and should be recycled, but isn't. According to World Bank, every year, roughly 2 billion metric tons of trash are created. I did say that correctly. 2 billion metric tons of trash. There are 7.4 billion people in the world. If you do the math, that's 600 pounds of trash on average for each of us. 600 for me, 600 for you. And in the United States alone, 75% of our trash is recyclable, or 450 pounds of it per person. Do you know how much is? 30%. Only 30% is actually recycled, about 180 pounds per person. People argue that it's not financially reasonable to build the infrastructure to handle that level of recycling. But the Bureau for International Recycling refutes this claim head on. According to their studies, if we reach that 75% threshold, we'd create $850 million of gross domestic product annually. $850 million. And 1.5 million jobs. Seems pretty reasonable to me. What's more, if we recycle that much, we would rely less on virgin products. Virgin products right from the ground. We can leave them there. The oil, copper, iron, magnesium, cobalt, all that could stay where it is for future generations because we can rely on our own recycling. If we take just the plastics out of that garbage and focus on it for a minute, the EPA reported in 2010 that annually we release roughly 8 million tons of plastic into the ocean worldwide. 8 million tons of plastic. That's enough plastic to fill 100 container ships. 100 of those giant container ships full of plastic in our oceans annually. Another way to see that, you take that 8 million tons and compare it to the number of people in the world, 2 pounds of plastic each. Now, I know that you don't walk out to the ocean shore and throw out 2 pounds of plastic. I know I don't. I know those cargo ships aren't literally pulling up in the middle of the ocean and dumping an entire load of plastic into it. But the fact is, that amount of plastic is what the world is responsible for. And as a resident of the world, we are all responsible for that level. What does that plastic actually equal though? If you take 1 ton of recycled plastic, that is equal to saving 16 barrels of oil. 1 ton of plastic, 16 barrels of oil. 8 million tons of plastic, 128 million barrels of oil. 128 million barrels of oil into our waters annually at a cost of $9 billion. You know what else it would save? Electricity. You see, it actually costs less electricity to recycle plastic than to make new plastic. So 1 ton of recycled plastic saves 5,777 kilowatt hours. Now, if you're like me, it's kind of hard to visualize what a kilowatt hour looks like. But if we recycle all that electricity, all that plastic, and the savings in that electricity would power 4.4 million homes. That's the state of Ohio. We could power Ohio in the energy savings just from recycling all the plastic we waste annually. You know what that totals? $5.5 billion. $5.5 billion in electricity savings if we recycle that much. That's a total of over $14 billion we're dumping into the ocean worldwide. What do you say to that? You know, what can we turn all that plastic into? Well, if we assume it's all one kind of plastic, which it's not, but go with me for a minute. Let's just say it's all one kind. We can make 750 billion of those little half-liter water bottles. Those kind that we all see in the grocery stores in those 24, 36 packs. We can make 750 billion of them. 3/4 of a trillion. Enough for every person around the world to get 100 of them. Just from our annual waste. What if we wanted to make a fleece blanket out of it? Because fleece is made out of polyester, which is plastic. If we took that much and made it into one fleece blanket, it would cover the state of Maryland, an entire state. That's how much plastic is in the water. If you don't want to look at the products that it creates, what if we look at how much of that, or how much annual product that actually ends up being? Each year we create 320 million pounds of plastic worldwide, and 8 million pounds ends up in the garbage, or in the water. 320 million pounds created, 8 million pounds ends up in the water. 2%. There are people that would say, good, 2%, it's only 2%. But would you be okay with 2% of your garbage being left in your backyard every week? I know I wouldn't. So with all this said, what does it mean? Why should you care? Well, it's simple. Every year, we're each responsible for 600 pounds of trash. 2 billion tons of it. Every year, we dump 100 container ships worth of plastic into our oceans. One every 3 days. We dump 128 million barrels of oil worth of plastic into our waters. The savings of that alone is $14 billion. We have a responsibility to this planet and to our home. We must care for it by reducing trash and increasing recycling. Let us shoulder our responsibility together, and let's get this done today.